and today I will be presenting FDR and his impact on American rights. Oh, hi, my name is Chelsea. I don't think I've seen you around before, but feel free to come in and join me. What am I going to do? I can't believe I'm on for my presentation in 15 minutes. I look up to Franklin Roosevelt being where I am, and I know a lot, but do I have my facts right? Was it 1932 he became president, or 1936? I don't know. How am I supposed to give a speech on one of the most influential people in American history if I can't even get my dates right? I know I thought talking about FDR and helping more people get to know him was a good idea, but what can one girl in a wheelchair do to make a difference? I wish I could have met FDR just once. Then I'd know what to do. Who said that?
It's me, FDR. Someone wish to meet me?
Ah! Are you a ghost?
I prefer spiritual information carrier. And yes, I guess you could say that.
Okay. Breathe. This is what you wanted, right?
It's all right, Chelsea. Come towards the radio and let's talk.
But why the radio? With all this to have control over? The radio? Really?
Well, Chelsea, the radio was big to do during my 4 terms as president. I had to accept the responsibility of helping the nation, not only through the Great Depression, but also through a world war. Do you know how I did that, Chelsea?
Well, there were your fireside chats. Oh, that explains the radio. 90% of the country owned radios in the 1930s.
That's true. I gave 30 fireside chats on many topics. For example, in my first fireside chat on March 12, 1933, I explained to the American people the need for a banking holiday and reassured them that the country's reopened banks were safe. You see, the banks were closed after Black Thursday on October 24, 1929, when the stock market crashed. The economy went south due to the amount of withdrawals by panicked people worried about losing their lives savings. In the winter of 1932 to 1933, 5,000 banks failed and 1 million savings accounts were wiped out.
Well, I would be terrified to be waiting in that line, knowing that, unlike now, I wouldn't get my money back if I lost it because the bank failed.
Well, that's what I had to work through. I felt it was my responsibility to go above and beyond to give Americans hope and trust in their government. In that one fireside chat, I reinstilled Americans' trust in their banks and explained to them how the banking system works.
But what was it like to listen to a fireside chat, to actually be there? I know you felt it was essential to explain what was happening to the common man, but...
Well, imagine sitting by the radio in your family's living room, afraid, unaware of what your government was doing, or having heard it only by word of mouth. My voice, that was sent by others to be a marvelous radio voice, reassures you that everything will be all right. I would clarify misunderstood facts about the situations of the time, and even those with little education to get the information they needed about their country.
Okay, now I think I understand. I remember when you talked about your second fireside chat, where you talked about the progress you'd made during the first 2 months in office, and reassured the American people there was gold to back up the currency. I also remember your sixth fireside chat, where you talked about the biggest questions the general public had about industry and labor. At one point in your presidency, you did say the government has a final responsibility for the well-being of its citizenship, but weren't the fireside chats given or
Funny you should ask that, but I never gave a single fireside chat near a fireplace. And if anyone listened by a fireplace, I wouldn't know.
Then why were the fireside chats called?
It was actually a CBS reporter named Harry Butcher who first used the term fireside chats in a press release on May 7th, 1933, and it stuck. It was a name that well represented the feelings that came with my fireside chats. When I was on the radio, I made sure I used easy-to-understand language so anyone could understand what I was saying. It was actually curious that I accomplished so much during my presidency, seeing as when I visited the White House as a child, President Cleveland told me, "I am making a strange wish for you. I hope that you may never be president of the United States."
But what about all of the other things you did for the country and your new New Deal plans?
Well, during my State of the Union address in 1944, I gave to Congress what I felt were a list of individual rights that were crucial to America's success and progress for the future. While this was given later in my presidency, most of my New Deal measures and goals of my presidency could be related to the Second Bill of Rights. These rights included the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, the right to a good education, the right to a useful and remunerative job in the industries or shops or farms or mines of the nation, the right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation for yourself and your family, the right of farmers to raise and sell their products at a return which will give them and their families a decent living, the right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad, the right of every family to a decent home, and the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health.
Those are great rights and all, but how do they relate to the New Deal? And did Congress ever enact them?
Congress never officially enacted these rights, but they were given through measures and laws over time. For example, from 1929 to 1932, farmers' incomes dropped by 2/3 because it was no longer profitable to harvest their crops. To help give farmers their rights, I helped to enact the Emergency Farm Mortgage Act, which helped farmers refinance their mortgages in the hope of foreclosures on their farms. I also enacted the Agricultural Adjustment Act, so farm prices were guaranteed and it was again profitable to harvest and sell their crops. In 1932, 12 million people were unemployed, so I created the Works Progress Administration, which employed only 3/10 of the Americans out of work in 1935. But it was a great demonstration of what organized social efforts could do. Also, I allowed labor unions to protest under full support of the law by enacting the National Labor Relations Act.
But what did you do to help kids my age? I mean, you did a lot to help struggling adults during the Great Depression, but what about teenagers?
Well, the National Youth Administration, over 7 years, found jobs and training for 6,000 college students, 1.5 million high school students, and 2.6 million youths not in school. I am also the reason why children today speak of a right to education.
But wait a minute, you did all of this while in a wheelchair? I still have trouble navigating around my high school building, so I'm not late for class.
Well, I was the first president with a significant physical disability, and in the long run it helped me to understand those less fortunate than I. When I was diagnosed at age 39, several other diagnoses were reached before they concluded it was polio. Before I was even given a chance to try for the presidency in 1932, I was reduced to staying in bed and later always relying on the help of others to walk. But if anything, it made me stronger and made me want to help people even more. For several years, I tried to regain use of my legs, but after a while, I decided to return to political life and run for governor in 1928. Even though it was in my rehab, I felt it was my responsibility to help others. It inspired me to help push for the Social Security Act, which helped to provide for old age pensions, victims of industrial accidents, aid for dependent mothers, children, the blind, and the physically disabled. I was called the crippled man who taught a crippled nation to work.
Well, I guess one girl in a wheelchair really could make a difference. You really helped to give rights to the people of our country. You gave up your chance of walking alone again to be a politician, and most of all, you helped and inspired me.
Well, thank you, Chelsea. Say, we have about 5 minutes before your presentation. Do you want to listen to part of one of my fireside chats?
Definitely. I'll see you guys later. I don't want to miss this.